everyone. Welcome to Laurie's Little Studio. I'm Laurie, and today I have this in front of me, and you probably recognize this from my very last video. I made this for my daughter Candace, and I'm going to make this for my daughter Candace. She bought this fabric. I bought the last fabric, and she wanted a plaid. So I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of, this is a rose color. This is kind of a rosy red. This is a burgundy. This is kind of gold. This is like a white mixed with red. There's a darker kind of a brown in there, but it's a really pretty plaid, and I believe she got this at a Joann. We have our zipper. We need a 14-inch zipper, and she said she thought this would be pretty. I did not want to use an invisible zipper in this iteration of the jumper. And it is 18 inches, but I can make it smaller. This is double-sided tape. This is my preferred method for attaching a zipper prior to stitching it, especially in a garment, because it keeps it straight. And pins sometimes can shift. So this is what I'm going to use. This is Clover. I got this on Amazon, and I will link it down below in the description underneath this video. I had to buy some thread. I prefer Gutermann. There may be better threads, but for my everyday type of stitching, this is what I'm going to use. And we've already got our pattern cut out because obviously I made it, I don't know, just a couple weeks ago. Right. So since there are 5 different skirts, I'm going to assume that all of the skirts have some shared pieces. So A is the only skirt that does not share skirt pieces, just the waistband. Okay, so we're going to be cutting out piece number 3, which is the waistband, piece number 1, and piece number 2. And I'm going to change the needle in my sewing machine. Oh, and I have a big announcement. I totally forgot. I don't know why I forgot. But George is ready. He had to have a part replaced. I will get him back tomorrow, which is Saturday. Well, the waistband isn't shared. It is sized for each size. So you would have size 10 waistband, size 14 waistband. And it looks like I have a lot of extra pattern paper here, which is good. All right, for those of you who know me, you know I'm going to mark this as extra pattern paper that I can use if I tear a pattern. Always try to write that information with a heat erase pen, or I would say a heat erase pen. You don't want to use air erase because it'll air erase. This is an air erase. And I don't like to write this in heat erase because I don't know that I would actually hit this with an iron, but I could. I'd rather scratch this word, these words out. But I have to write that on there because not all of my pattern envelopes have extra pattern paper. And then if I'm looking through what I have in my patterns to fix this pattern or another pattern that doesn't have extra pattern paper, I'll know that this has extra pattern paper. And when I've used it all up, I just scratch that out so I won't even bother to look. All right, I'm going to cut out the pieces I need, and I'll be right back. Here is a tip I have not shared with you guys before. I don't think I've shared it with you. If you are cutting out a multi-sized pattern like this one is, and you have trouble differentiating which of these lines to cut on, you can take a color pen, like this heat erase pen, and starting where the number is that you want to cut out, just draw right along that line until you get to the solid line, at least for people who need glasses like I do. The next step that I do to my pattern pieces is I color in the numbers of the pieces I'm using. I didn't used to do this, but I find this to be very helpful if I'm trying to find a pattern piece. If I've got to go back to it to make a mark or check something, this just makes it a lot easier. Okay, all right. Then I notice right away that piece 1 has all of this written on it. I'm going to assume it's about ease. That's usually where they put it, is on the pattern piece. Okay, so it describes what ease is right here. It is the difference between the standard body measurements for a size as given on the envelope back, this envelope, and the finished garment measurements as printed on the pattern tissue. So there's a little bit of a difference between what they call a size 8 here and what they call a size 8 on these pieces. And it will give you these measurements if it tells you about ease on the pattern piece. Seam allowance will allow you to let things out. Okay, the other thing I do is on something I'm going to be stitching in plaid is I mark these. I didn't mark them when I was cutting them out because I just didn't feel like it. But I do mark them, and I knew I would be marking them. Okay, and then I take my 18-inch Omni Grid and I line this up on the fold line right here where it's placed on the fold. I line it up on this grid right here so it's straight. And you might need to use your pattern weights or something heavy that you can kind of see through the pattern paper. Okay. All right, and then across the top of that, I know you can't see it, but it's back here, notch. And I make sure that this is straight to this and the notch. So now when I put this on the pattern, or excuse me, when I put this on the fabric, I have a line to follow as well as another line, and I am probably going to either trace this piece or flip it over because I'm cutting it out on a plaid. Okay, then I do the same thing on this one. Okay, and I don't worry about these notches at the top where the waistband goes. I'm only looking at the sides. This is the center back where the zipper goes, but I am going to use this grain line right here to line it up across the top of that notch. The red is the waistband, and I am considering turning it, but I need to see how this piece is going to, you know, figure on the fabric I have, because this is the straight grain right here. Okay, and these are our waistband notches that I'm going to need. All right, I had to iron this piece. The crinkles were just a little bit aggravating. This is going to be the center fold. This is where that centerfold line mark is. If I pull it to the middle-ish of a big set of squares or rectangles, I think it will look better than if I pull it to one of these lines and then have it be open. I think is the center is on the other side of the darker plaid next to the lighter plaid. So right there. So I'm going to pop my fold line, not on this side because I don't have enough fabric. So I need to find that line again right here. Put this right along that dark line. Put a couple pins in, and then I'm going to measure from the top of my notch straight across. I want to make sure that where this notch is where the line is going to end up over here. And so far, all right, it's just below it. Doesn't look straight. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to pull this way. I want to make sure my fabric stays straight. Always checking that. Okay, that's better. You see these white lines? That's because I had to press this piece. It's there, and I had to fill in that red, and my notch is white because that's what happens to the gel ink in these friction ink pens. So I think I've got it lined up on this dark line. And now I want to make sure that this line right here, this white line right here, is straight and lined up with that notch right there, all the way across to the other side. I don't want it to be off. It looks like the notch is right in the middle of that line, and I need to remember to cut a notch right there. And just keep checking. If you have to look underneath your pattern to make sure it's in the right place, your pattern piece, to make sure that it's in the right place, go ahead and do that. Kind of assess it, take a deep breath, make sure everything is straight, flat. The same thing with this piece. I have to cut two. I'll need to press this one as well. I can already tell. Okay, so I made a mistake because I wasn't watching this corner over here, and the first pattern one sticks out about that much from this corner down here at the edge of this skirt, or when you flip it over, this corner is off of the fabric by about that much. So what I'm going to do, you will notice in the cutting instructions, view A. So piece number 1 is pattern printed side up. Piece number 2 is pattern printed side down. So you need to keep that in mind. And this fabric is folded right there and right there. So this is 58-inch wide fabric. This is 45-inch wide fabric. Because this fabric is wider, you can fit this piece 2, on a section of the fabric and get 2 pieces cut. So there's the drawing. But I'm going to have to flip this piece 2, over. And what I'm going to do is make sure that here's the notch on the pattern piece, and here's the notch that I cut for piece 1. And I need to make sure they're gonna line up. I'm going to attempt to get that notch lined up, and it looks like that's going to fit, and the bottom edge is going to fit. So I can cut this right here, along this line right here, because I need to cut 2. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, I have a solution. Every single solitary time I sew, that happens to me. My friend Karen from Kansas would laugh if she heard me. All right, so here is one piece of the back. I'm going to check this over here, as I want to make sure it's going to fit. And I'm going to make sure that the side seams will meet up with the side seams on this skirt. So this is the back. This is where the zipper goes. And I will be matching the next piece to this. So it would be like that right there. These are the side seams, and they're going to be kind of at an angle, which are going to be a little harder to match. So if they don't, it's not a deal breaker. I'll put it that way. But right now, I'm going to make sure that I can get this front piece on the fabric. It keeps inching off. Okay, I've got the two backs and the one front, and next I'm going to have to try to come up with a piece of fabric that's long enough for the waistband. I think it's this piece right here. I need to see. Yep, this is it right here. This is the two back pieces. I decided to leave this selvage edge along the back. This is where the zipper goes. I will probably cut it, but because it's so neatly finished here, I'm just going to leave it. I don't know if you can see this. Right there. It looks huge on the camera, but it's really narrow. And I will cut that off. I just chose to leave it because all my patterns were matched. Okay, so let's see what we are supposed to do first. And I know that I probably said it about 50 times. I didn't want a white line running down the center of the skirt. Unfortunately, that was the only place that I could put this and have all pieces cut. And this is the waistband cut at an angle on purpose. Since we're doing skirt A, it's the first skirt featured. Sometimes they will tell you that you're going to do this for all of the views, like they are right there, A, B, C, D, E. For views B, C, D, and E, we would have some pleats, but we don't on view A. So for view A, we're going to stay stitch the waistband pieces. So the upper front and the two backs will be stay stitching. And then, because we're not doing this, we can skip down here to 4, and we're going to stitch the center back seam from the lower edge to the notch. So from here to here, because from here to here is where our zipper will go. Then we're going to press under 5/8 of an inch on the back opening edges, pin the closed zipper under the opening edge, both sides, with the tab end, which is the top part of the zipper, 1 inch below the upper edge. Don't forget, we're going to have a button. We're going to have a waistband, so that zipper doesn't have to go all the way up on just the skirt. Okay, then we're going to baste it down. I prefer to use this tape when I install zippers. So after we get our zipper installed, then we do our side seams. So, but I totally, yeah, I'll have George back. Yay! Wonderful. Okay, so when we're stitching the side seam, well, the side seams, not this view, but this view, we'll be using the walking foot to keep the two sides plaid even so they don't slip and slide on each other. And then after that, we will put some interfacing onto our waistband. We will get it ready for installation, which is right here. And then we put once we get it installed, we will put a buttonhole in the band. Okay, so the waistband goes on the skirt before you put the buttonhole on the waistband. So that happens, and then we hem it. So you can either hem it on the machine or you can hem it by hand. And to be completely honest, I'm all about sewing on the sewing machine, but I'm concerned that the thread I purchased will be quite garish on this skirt, so I'll probably end up having to sew the hem by hand. Whew, I got it cut out. Yay. And George is coming home. Yay. And so is my brunette, which I have not had my serger at all since we moved to the state of Washington over 20 years ago. Step 1. Stay stitch. We can use the walking foot to do the stay stitch with, and we don't want it to show, so we're going to stitch it close to the edge, needle down, and you can do 2.5. And you don't have to tie off. This is the bobbin thread that you can't see. It's brown and it's blending perfectly. And this is the top thread, which is sort of a rosy pink color. Now we're going to do the back pieces. Alright, this is the way the skirt goes together. So this is left side and this is right side. This is right sides. This is wrong sides. So the way I want to denote right sides is with a circle, but any marking on this side will let me know that it is the right side, and this will come out. And I think I'm supposed to talk to my sister in 9 minutes. Remember, I left this selvage here, and I will probably trim that away. I've got to match my notch that's right here, and right here. And we're going to stitch from the bottom edge of the skirt up to this notch that I know you can't see. I'll just go ahead and cut this. Make sure that you have your notches matched. That will definitely help so much with plaid matching. And you can see I've got stripes and I want to make sure they're matched. Leave that there. And when you're matching plaids, pin, pin, pin. So I'm going to pin because I can still see where the stripes are easily. I may cut it, that's where the zipper is going to go. And I may cut that, but for now I'm leaving it so I can see the stripes. Okay, and if you think you have too many pins, you don't. I've got it from this notch all the way down to here. Good morning, it's the next day, and I have to tell you, I went off and left my camera running on for probably about 6 hours yesterday. I have no idea. I don't even know what's left on this card. It's going to be very interesting. But this is where I left you yesterday. I've decided to shorten this and use it in this skirt. So I won't be needing these. or the zipper that I took out and put somewhere and I can't find right now. So anyway, we'll put these back. Okay, there we go. So as I said yesterday, I'm going to bring this down. I don't know if I can show it to you or not, but there's just a little hint of the under fabric showing to the front so that I can line up these stripes in the plaid to the best of my ability. All of the lines are matched up. So our next, I believe the next step is to install the zipper. I think it's supposed to be 7 inches. 7-inch zipper. Okay, so let's get the zipper out. Okay, you can follow the centered application, the lapped application, and it will tell you how to do either of those on your skirt. Okay, so I'm doing the centered application, and that means that my zipper needs to be closed. Now, because I don't want to have too many pins poking into each other, I'm going to go ahead and stitch after I change my foot, of course. This is what the high shank zipper foot looks like. And as Candace said, this adds a pop of color. Make sure it works. It works. There we go. Okay, so after we've gotten the zipper installed, the next step is to attach the side seams. Because this is a slight curve, it may be impossible to get these lined up right, but what I do is I pin so that my pins are running the length of the skirt, and then I flip it to see, you know, what they look like. You can adjust them a little bit. And it's basically the same. Got, yeah, okay. All right, so we stitch these 2 side seams up. So now I'm going to take it to the ironing board and press these side seams. There's the side seam, the other side seam, and I'll be right back. Okay, so on the waistband, we need to apply some interfacing, and this is the press-on type of interfacing that I will press to the back of this. It tells us to, yes, apply interfacing to the wrong side of the waistband. If you're not using the press-on type, it tells you to hold the interfacing in place, machine based 1 inch from the long unnotched edge of the waistband. This stitching will be on the underside when the waistband is finished. Press under 5/8 of an inch on the long unnotched edge of the waistband, and then trim that down to 1/4 of an inch. So this side right here is the unnotched side, and this is the notched side right here. So here's the interfacing, here's that pressed under 5/8 of an inch. All right, we're going to attach the right side of this waistband to the right side of the skirt. All right, so I've got the waistband pinned to the skirt, and we are supposed to baste it on and then stitch it on and then trim this in layers. We have 2 pieces of fabric. We've got the skirt fabric and the waistband fabric. And we're supposed to layer this cut. So the waistband would be cut a little bit shorter than the skirt. I'm not going to baste. You don't want to get down below the start of your zipper. So I'm going to have to mark that with my pen. So I have put a pin right here. This is the beginning of my zipper, and I want to be able to see where that is. This line right here, the first one that I drew on this side, is not the correct line. This line, I drew it longer so I could differentiate. This is the line right here that I want to be stitching on. So this is what the waistband will look like when it's complete. It won't be this wide. It will be about that wide. So the next step is, I think, to go ahead and clip it. Layer the seam, yes. Okay, this will be easier now because there's not as much bulk in this seam here. You can also clip the top of the skirt down if you want to, but don't get it at the same width that you cut the waistband down. And then we'll take it to the ironing board and we're going to press this way, and then we're going to fold the band right sides together like so, and stitch the ends and trim the corners, just the ends. I'm not going to stitch this way. When we've done this, it will flip this way and we can fold it over and stitch it down over that seam on the back side. When you're pressing, you want to make sure that you've pressed this waistband toward, this seam where you attach the skirt to the waistband, that should be facing the waistband when it's been pressed. Okay, now we're going to fold this like this and stitch the ends. Okay, so once you get the ends stitched and flipped, we will be hand stitching this waistband down on the wrong side. So I'll just go press this and get it stitched, and when I come back the waistband will be finished except for the button and the buttonhole. And don't forget to use your readers if you need to. this part right here will have the buttonhole, and this part right here will have the button. My plan is to finish the bottom edge with my serger, because I can now that I have it back. And then you mark where you want the hem to go, and you press it up, and you hand stitch it down. The next option is to run a basting stitch all along the bottom edge and pull it slightly, because this skirt is slightly flared and the hem is not going to be laying flat. There's going to be little bubbles every so often because of the fact that it's flared out. So you can also do that if you wish. The skirt is hemmed all the way around. I hemmed it by hand. And now it's time to do a buttonhole. The button has been stitched, the skirt has been hemmed, it's all finished. By the way, it fits Candace perfectly. I think it turned out really cute for just a casual skirt. We're going to make this jumper right here in the next video. And I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.